Well, I guess this will be probably an easy one for me in a sense. Why do you want to be the superintendent?
Well, that's been a goal I've had for some time. I've been working toward that objective. I recently finished my superintendent credential. I spent 21 years in education. Started with a bachelor's degree in business administration, and really felt I wanted to be working with, people. So I went and pursued my master's degree in education, and I've been doing that ever since. I've worked my way up from teacher to assistant principal to principal. I think I could bring a positive vision to the district, and going forward, I would be committed to that job as something I could bring to this district. I've had success at every district I've been at, and I would look forward to bringing the same things to myself.
Please.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I was reading this when you were saying what we're going to do. The same question to the next.
Yeah, we'll address the same question to John now.
All right. Well, actually, I can't believe the number of people that have asked me that same question in the last couple of days. And, at this time, I don't have the desire to be the regular superintendent beyond this year. I've been the business manager here in the district for the last 7 years. Next year will be my 13th year in the district. I started as a teacher. And, of course, I've been a principal here as well. And, this time of Rick's departure in the district is not optimal by any means, as far as finding a pool of candidates, to take the district on, for years to come, hopefully. I see the interim role as basically a caretaker for the district, to make sure that the finances are taken care of for the next school year, for making sure that any projects that we currently have in progress continue as planned, and just basically to make sure that things can operate smoothly, and so that when a new superintendent is selected next year, assuming the interim role ends, that a smooth transition can occur to the new superintendent. The new superintendent can be brought up to speed, and then carry the district according to his or her vision. And so that's why I'm interested in the job. I feel that it's my duty to offer my candidacy, I guess, and that's what I'm doing. Thank you.
Okay, so Ed, would you like to ask a question of John?
Yeah, I just want to know what, really you can accomplish in a year facing the reality of a difficult school board.
Well, I guess difficult school board is all on perception. I would go into the situation with the sole objective of doing what is best for kids. The school board are representatives of the community, and the community in our community is a very tight-knit group, with a very diverse group, but at the same time very similar. And the school is the center of the community. And so, as the interim superintendent, next year will be my 13th year. I grew up in ASL. I have 3 kids. My oldest will be in first grade next year. And I view it really as an opportunity to facilitate kind of the bridge between the community, which is the board, and we as educators here at the school, to facilitate that connection, and to attempt to deliver on what the board goals and policies and vision is for our district, and to advocate for the teachers and the staff and the students so that we can do our job. And so I don't see one board as difficult. I'm certainly not afraid of the challenge, but that's what we're looking for. I think I know what needs to be done, and I'll do the best I can. I'm no one's yes man, so I'm going to do what I believe is necessary. Of course, working closely with the board, the community, and our staff. So.
Would you want to repeat that just quickly for me?
Well, we're gonna have a change of, there's a possibility of a change of a board and with maybe completely different goals and management styles. And, you know, within a year, what is reality that you going to be able to really accomplish much except trying to keep the cats together.
Right. Well, I have been in difficult situations before. I've worked in 3 different districts and spent 15 years at Ocean Beach. And I know some of the folks in the audience are familiar with the history of Ocean Beach schools and the many changes in personnel and enrollment and climate issues. And I was fortunate there to have a lot of success in working with that district. I think I'm a people person who can accept other points of view, even though the situation may be challenging and difficult. I've been able to thrive in those kinds of environments, and I know this board is likely to change, but I think I could bring those skills to the table. You know, like John said, really the job of the superintendent is teaching and learning, and the board should help set goals that accomplish that mission. And I think when decisions get difficult and times are tough, we will have to work through those situations. I know that life with most school boards is not a 5-0 decision. Many policies and decisions are approved on 3-2 or shot down, 2-3. So I understand that. I know, that is part of the job that person will face. I believe I would have the support of the community and staff in doing that. I think I could work with pretty much anyone.
Bob, can you ask Gilbert if he even heard any of that?
Gilbert, are you still there? Okay, are you able to hear that okay?
I can hear that real good, but I can hear enough to understand what's being said.
Okay. All right, I might be able to improve that a little bit, I don't know. I guess I could walk it over there too.
Maybe get it away from the water microphone feedback, being that close.
I don't want feedback.
Yeah.
Okay, Hollis.
I actually have no questions.
5
Okay.
minutes to John's turn next then?
You're not that lucky.
I defer.
All right, so I guess my question would be, as interim superintendent, and we're on you right now, correct? Where do you think our bond should go from here, since it failed so miserably? Do you think that the board, the district should move forward? And if you do, what would be your plan to implement that and hopefully make that happen?
I think the best thing would be for the district to just stand still for a minute and do some community re-engagement. We need to find out, where we are with the community. There's a lot of dissension and strife at this time. We have pretty much a split community. The bond is near 50-50. And, we need to reach out to those people, maybe set up some listening posts. One thing I thought of was maybe we have like a coffee group or something where you would be available, 1 month at an activity or place in Waukegan County, the next month in Pacific County, and just be an open, listening, kind of a sounding board, and bring a fresh perspective to it and re-engage the community, get involved with some of the community events out on the east end of the county. Another thing I think we might want to consider is WSU does surveys for the community relatively inexpensively, where, you could set up maybe some options, press 1 if you would support a gym and what we would referred to as the 57 building. Press 2 if you would only support the gym. Press 3 if you would only support, the 57 building. To, go out and gather some statistics. We need to find out why the no voters voted no. And we need to continue to work with the yes voters who have supported the schools. But there has been a pretty significant decline in the yes votes since 2006. If you look at the results from the 2006 M&O levy, 75% of the people who voted in Pacific County voted for that last M&O. Now, I know an M&O and a bond are really comparing apples to oranges, but just as a whole, you can see a strong slide in the support for those two things. And I think before we run any other proposal, we need to do some listening and, really look at, where we're trying to go and what we want to accomplish with this and what the people are willing to spend.
Okay, thank you. John?
Could you repeat the question, please?
Oh, you can make me do that, right? Okay, so, where do you feel the district should go, with the bond at this time? Do you think that, we should be looking into running that again, or what would be your, recommendation as to whether we should run it again, or basically, I guess that's my question.
Yeah. Well, that's a great question. If you look at the number of yes votes, the first time we ran it, it was 512 yes, I believe. The second time we ran it, I think it was 398 combined. So, plain and simple, the district got it wrong. We did something wrong. I think we ran the bond too soon, and we didn't give the opportunity to the community to voice their concerns after the first time that they went down. I'm a tech guy, so I'm all for a lot of electronic surveys and things like that. However, in this community, I believe the way to really gauge the interest of the people and their desire is to engage them face-to-face head on. Lisa mentioned a lot of different coffee groups or community. That's exactly right. We have to engage our community, give them the opportunity to engage us, and we need to really listen to the community. I think there's a perception out there, and to a point, I think they're probably correct, that the district does not listen. That needs to change. We need to listen to the community, and we need to figure out a way to enable that to happen. One of the things I would like to see happen eventually, and as an interim superintendent, of course, it would be subject to the board's desire, because you want to be careful about how much you do if there's a new superintendent coming in. But one of the things I'd like to see happen is a community advocacy group set up, solicit the community, put it out there and say, hey, who would be interested in something like this? Who would be interested to come into the school or to meet down at the library or some place on a regular basis where they can get information directly from the superintendent and administrators about everything the school does: budget, curriculum, athletics, the bond, everything. And I think that if we do something like that, a lot of these engaging opportunities with the community are going to start to grow, and they're going to start to spawn in different parts of the district, and communication is going to be flowing both ways. Okay? If we have communication flowing both ways, if we are listening and the community believes that we are listening, then I think we're going to get some positive results. Personally, I think that this is just John, I think the project was too expensive. Okay? I think that there are options with different architects that will give us a lot of the same things that we need at a less price. I think that needs to be explored. I think we might hear that from the community if we would listen to them. And so I think that's something we need to do, and that's something I would definitely encourage the board and work with the board in determining how that's done.
Okay, thank you.
I actually have a follow-up question to
All right.
your question, Bob, and that is, Lisa, you on the bond committee.
Yes.
The bond committee, was it unanimous in that they wanted to run the second election?
I don't recall everyone raising their hands in
Was there any objection to running it the second time that you can remember?
Not necessarily, I mean, it seems like after the last meeting to rerun it, and then there weren't a lot of meetings after that, it was just kind of arbitrarily, or, just for lack of a better word, arbitrarily decided that it was going to be reran, and that's the way it was.
Was there any discussion at those meetings whether or not, if the second one failed, where do we go from there?
Not a lot, it was mostly focused on let's rerun it again, because it was pretty close, and we think we can make it. That's what I remember.
I was on the committee too, Art, I remember this, I concur with her.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Did you have a
Yeah.
separate question?
I do have another one if I can find it here. Yeah, let's see, who am I speaking with? Doesn't matter, it's with John. Okay, John and Lisa. What are the major problems for K through 12 education today and within this district?
So is that a two-part question? K-12 in general and the district, or just?
Yeah, K-12 in general, and then how it translates to this district.
Boy, it depends who you talk to. It really does. I'll start with K-12 in general, you know, state and national-wide, you know, what have you. You know, personally, I think one of the problems with K-12 education is that, and Debbie can probably attest to this because she's 36 years, the cycles that we seem to see. And what I mean by that is, you know, educational policy changes frequently. It changes depending on who controls Washington. It changes depending on who's the superintendent of public instruction. It can change depending on who's on the school board. And so there's a lot of stakeholders, and with public education, it's going to vary depending on what the stakeholders are promoting. Specifically looking at K-12 and, you know, across the United States or in Washington, I personally feel that we're trying to move all kids through a one-size-fits-all system of education. I don't believe that's the right thing to do. You know, kids are different. None of them are alike. There's different learning styles. There's different learning needs, and I think it's crazy to expect that every kid can accomplish the same educational goals the same way. So I think that's a problem, and I think that's something that needs to be addressed, and policymakers and educators attempt to address those things. But you know, there's all kinds of variables that impact that. Specifically here in Maysel, you know, Karen always mentions that Maysel is the best public private school in the state, and I believe her in that. We have a lot of success here in Maysel. That success is due to the fact that we have fabulous teachers. We have great kids, and we have a very supportive community. And I think Maysel is fortunate. We're probably one of the few school districts, at least in the region, that can say what I just said, respectfully. I think that we do a really good job knowing our kids, knowing them individually, knowing their learning needs, and adapting in order to best educate them. Our teachers work really hard to do just that. I think that one of the problems, if I have to answer your question with a problem, I think being so small, we're often limited in some of the options that we can provide our kids. For example, I would love to have an art teacher. We have no art program other than the fine arts in the high school. You know, we have a great kiln and all kinds of supplies and no teacher. So I think if there's ways that we can creatively provide some of the opportunities that the larger schools have, that we should look into that. We should seriously try to make that happen. I think that there's a lot of things we can improve and not improve, expand, I should say, in our vocational areas. You know, a lot, we're limited to the type of space and equipment we have. But I'd like to see us improve in those areas. And, but overall, I think we can really be proud of what we've accomplished, and of course, there's always room to get better, so.
Okay, so far as the global issues, I mean, I think all districts are looking at, you know, issues around financing. Money doesn't seem to go very far, and you know, I know that the legislature is working on that, but I think that's one of the global challenges of education. Also, it seems like every time we turn around, there's a new unfunded mandate. Okay, we've recently been talking about the new teacher evaluation system. We've been talking about the Common Core. There's numerous tests that students have to complete, and you know, I am all for student achievement, and I highly believe in that, and I think that's a kid's, you know, ticket to the future. But the testing has seemed to kind of gone through the roof. It's gotten out of hand. You know, for most students who are graduating high school and going into a technical career or starting community college, they don't have to have passed, you know, an Algebra 2 exam. You know, I think it's good to have high standards, but sometimes our standards stop us from being able to offer some of the other programs. And, you know, I never thought I'd hear myself saying that 5-10 years ago. You know, I thought every kid should have calculus. But as I look at the reality of what that looks like, while many kids who leave here, you know, go on to college for a while, it's actually a pretty small percentage of those students who actually graduate or earn a degree from college. So, kind of before I head into the NACEL specific issues, I just kind of want to, you know, wrap up on the global issues. Another thing is right now society as a whole has a lot of mistrust for schools, school leadership, authority figures. And in some ways, we've sort of created that ourselves. I mean, as a teacher, we teach our kids to be critical thinkers, you know, check for yourself, research, find out the facts, don't believe everything that you're told. And now, as these kids have gone through the system and become young adults, we're sort of faced with the own situation that we created. And we have to work hard and search within ourselves to find answers to those questions. Because if we cannot justify what it is we're doing to, you know, our constituents, then maybe we're doing the wrong things. So that's kind of how I see what the global issues are. In addition to that, there's just not a lot of flexibility for what we have to accomplish within the hours that the school day exists. You know, a lot of the foreign countries have school many more hours a day, and you can kind of see why. Because it's really impossible to get done what you need to get done in the short amount of time that you have. When you count for passing times, lunch, and recess, you know, you're down to not that many hours a day of instruction. As far as issues surrounding the district, were you talking more about challenges in your question, or when you asked the question about, you know, specific issues to NACEL and the K-12, were you talking more challenges?
Just the problems, I think.
Problems?
Yeah,
Okay, so I want to be sure to kind of frame the question from the right.
What are the major problems within the district with respect to K-12?
I think one of the serious problems we need to take a look at is shrinking enrollment. You know, 5-6 years ago, we had, you know, over 300 students in the K-12. When I say 300, I mean FTE or full-time equivalent students. You know, now we're down to around 262. You know, at over $5,000 a person. You know, that's a money. You're talking almost $500,000. And so, you know, we need to, you know, take a good look at what it is we're offering, how we can hang on to our kids. You know, 5 or 6, sometimes more students go to Running Start every year. Could we implement some programs like, you know, college in the high school, where students earn college credit, you know, articulation agreements? You know, for example, there's another thing, the Oregon Youth Authority recently established, it's called EduPortal, and students over there can take classes online, for which then they can take a competency test and then earn college credit for it. It's called CLEP. You may remember that from your college days. And University of Oregon is one of the schools who takes those credits, there's like 2,900 schools. And I'm seriously considering looking at that for the youth camp kids because, you know, they're not doing a whole lot else. They might as well earn some, you know, go to school and earn some college credits. Freedoms are kind of limited. So, now I digress a little bit there, but also, you know, I think it might be time to where we start looking at our neighboring districts and see if there's ways that we can partner with them and kind of incur some savings.
What was that with whom?
Our neighboring districts, I know a few years ago, Ocean Beach superintendent came up here for a visit to one of our meetings and was looking at, you know, potentially are there some positions that we could share? For example, a transportation director. I know that at some point, Ed Ingleson is going to retire. And he is going to be a very hard person to replace, because not only does he handle the management side and the training, and the supervision of the bus driver, plus he works a split shift and drives the roads at 4 in the morning to see what the weather is, but he's a pretty skilled mechanic also. And it's very uncommon to find a person with both sets of those skills. You know, perhaps we have to share someone with Ocean Beach, or find ways, you know, we are just, you know, getting smaller and smaller, and we really hate to have to cut programs because then we put our kids at a disadvantage. So, and I think that's one of the biggest issues facing the district right now. You asked about K-12, but also the CBA program is still on the docket to take some potentially significant cuts at the legislature. And, you know, if that drops, that's going to be another big hit for the district. So, it's might come to the time we're gonna have to start forming some partnerships.
I think they're doing that in Longview.
Okay? Okay. Hollis? No, no, pass.
Okay, who's up? Lisa? All right, so, we know that, we've got contracts to negotiate this upcoming year. And I guess, probably for clarification to the community, have you ever been a negotiator in developing a contract?
Can the rest of, can people hear very well?
No.
You okay?
No. I got thumbs up and no. All right, so the question is, we have, sorry, usually there's no problem hearing me. We have teachers' contracts coming up this year, and so the question is, have you ever been a negotiator in developing a contract? And the question is addressed to Lisa.
The answer is yes. Last year, I helped negotiate 2 contracts. We negotiated the teacher's contract, and I also was a member of the team that negotiated the classified. So, you know, teachers, aides, custodian, cooks, secretaries, worked on that negotiation. Also, I've negotiated 2 what we call MOAs, or memorandums of agreement, with the union. One of them was on the implementing a longer work schedule, 4 days a week at the youth camp and a shorter day on Fridays. And then also, we recently negotiated an agreement to be able to, when our enrollment went, you know, raised rather quickly, to be able to hire part-time teachers to fill the need on a temporary basis until the enrollment resided. And you know, the enrollment out there kind of goes in waves. So those are 4 contracts I've worked on in the last probably year and a half or 2.
Any question, John?
Okay. Well, actually, if I understand correctly, we also have public school employees contracts that are up this next year as well. And so, to answer the question is yes. As athletic director, I was the lead negotiator for the coach's contract. That was several years ago. And as business manager, I've been on the negotiating teams for both PSC and teachers for the last 7 years. I don't know how many contracts that is, maybe 3 each. Well, it might be a 3rd coming up here, possibly. As a business manager, my job for both PSC and the teachers was basically providing the financial analysis of both what the employees groups were bringing to us, and as well as what the district could afford to do. And so there's a lot of analysis and strategy in that, and working with the board, as you guys well know. heavily involved in that, those processes.